This video is kindly sponsored by Project Red. Check the link in the description to find out more. This video is made possible by 3D Musketeers, offering full-service product development, prototyping, and production, helping you make awesome from art to part. Links in the description. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Meet a Maker. Hi Faye, how you doing?
I've
You're
missed
back!
you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay, we finally found a time. Yes, and I'm so excited because this week we are meeting Sophy Wong. Hello, Sophie.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. I've been a huge admirer of your work for a very long time, and I've actually been working up the courage to ask you for a very long time too. So,
oh my
I'm so happy that you're here.
It's just mutual admiration because I love both of your works. Like, it's I'm just so happy we get to hang out and chat, all three of us together.
Me too.
This
is very kismety. This feels very kismety.
Yeah,
I realize that's a word I made up, but I mean, kismet's a word. I put the Y on. I made it into a verb, I think.
I like it.
We're so in sync. Well, Sophie, Faye and I both know what you do because we've definitely geeked out about you in private, but potentially the audience does not. So may you tell us a little bit about what you like to make, and yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, so I'm a designer. I always think of myself as a designer first, and I have been working lately a lot with wearable electronics. So a lot of people who know of my work kind of know it as wearable tech projects and wearable projects like costumes and sort of fashiony things. And I love to work technology into it. So a lot of my projects light up or they have some kind of sensory component, they do something. And I love working with digital fabrication and like sort of emerging new technology and figuring out how to be expressive and creative with that kind of technology. So, yeah, my projects often have some kind of digital workflow to them, like digital component. So 3D printing, or I'm starting to learn CNC, small scale CNC, laser cutting and code and stuff like that, and
all of the things
together
really.
and make stuff. Yeah, it's a long list. It's like a very long run-on sentence when I try to introduce myself.
I think that's one of the amazing things about your work, though, is that you are so willing to combine different stuff together. Like I remember watching your one about that a certain dress in the background right there. You had to talk about it online, and you were talking about how you use like Illustrator because you'd come from a design background, and then you were using that to make the 3D models, and then like it was like this build on of all these different things coming together to form this item, which is just, I just love that about your work. I get so excited when I see people meshing fields, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm glad because when I started kind of like dabbling and mixing things up, I was like, am I doing it wrong? Because like I always thought you had to specialize, to be good at something, and so I thought I was kind of like, oh, I'm never. At some point in my life, I realized I'm not a specialist, and I thought that was a bad thing, like something I was going to have to conquer or overcome or whatever. And I guess eventually I just moved beyond that idea and just kind of started to figure out how these things that like intersect in me somehow, like how can I create something new out of that? And I definitely didn't come up with that idea myself. I saw this amazing TEDx talk by someone who was talking about how she thought there was something wrong with her because she likes to combine different things, And she's like, actually, that's a superpower. And I need to actually remember her name because it's such an important Emily Wapnick.
We'll find a link and we'll pop it in
the
description.
Google.
Yeah. And basically, like, she says in her TED talk, like, you might think that it's weird because it's not really often celebrated. We a lot of the people that are commonly celebrated as being very successful are specialists, and the world's kind of built to support specialists in a lot of ways. But if you're not a specialist, you're still amazing, and all the stuff that you're interested in is super unique, how it combines in you. So like, do something with it. And I think like seeing someone else say that, I was like, oh my God, maybe I can come up with something interesting, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And I totally agree. Like, I think the magical creative sparks happen in that intersection of different fields. Like, I feel like that's where like leaps and bounds happen. And I think there's something Faye has talked about as well.
Well,
a few times,
I still think
maybe.
It's all so funny hearing you say this, because you literally did that for me, Sophie. Like, you were the person who I saw doing the thing that I wanted to do, and embodying the things that I embodied. And so like, you were quite literally, I'm so sorry if I've never told you this.
Oh my
I'm like
God,
tearing up a little just hearing this. Oh,
that is
that's
totally
beautiful.
amazing. No, oh my God.
I mean, like, and there were several people and several women who were inspiring to me getting started, but you specifically were doing the things I wanted to do, but also doing them in the way that felt right to me too. And having that kind of, that you were a role model, having that kind of example, this wonderful example of somebody doing the thing that, like you said, other people are a little bit, you know, because you're 100% right. The world is built kind of, especially for creatives, for specialists. And when you're not a specialist, it's really hard actually to not feel a little bit like a failure all the time, because you're not as good as the specialists because they specialize. Like this is just,
right.
It's just logic, isn't it? Like when you do one thing over and over again, you're gonna get better at it than if you're doing 20 things. But
it's true.
There isn't anything wrong with that. And it is a weird sort of, I guess, place to reach, especially when you don't necessarily have a team of people supporting you. Telling you, oh yes, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be a generalist. You're doing the right thing.
Right.
So,
and I think a lot of people try to, like, a lot of people have said to me earlier in my life when I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, a lot of people in my life who were super kind and really supportive and, you know, are good friends and family members, they thought they were supporting me by saying things like, "You're so great, Sophie. All you need is some focus," you know, or "You could be really great if you just chose one thing and did it." And I'm like,
oh my God.
You know, I know that you're
Exact
trying
word
to
for word.
be
Yep.
supportive and helpful, and I know why you think that that's the right advice to give me, but that's actually just not an option for me. Like, that just is not
and that's it,
how I work,
isn't it?
you know? Yeah.
It's not an option.
It's just not
it's not
like,
that it's a choice. It's not an option.
It's not a choice because I just can't do that.
And also I think, like, in the modern world that we live in now, with computers becoming better and better at all sorts of things that traditionally humans have done, the creativity and that innovation and that ability to see things in a really interesting new light is something computers will remain not great at for the longest. So, like, in terms of, like, future job prospects and stuff, being able to be creative and solve problems in really weird ways and all that sort of stuff, like, the skills that we have, I think actually ended up being the future-proof skills. Like, you know,
it's true. I never thought of it that way, but you're so right. I mean, it's things like, I love watching, like, what's happening with machine learning and these, like, algorithms. When people take them and they try to use them for expressive creative ideas, I think it's so cool.
100%.
And, but you're right. Like, a computer is never going to randomly stumble across something on Twitter and, you know, which just happened to me this morning, or actually I guess it was yesterday. I'm doing some experiments with, like, 3D printed like links.
Yes, and, I saw those. They're amazing. Yeah.
Actually, I got them right here. You know, they're like these little figure 8 things, and I'm doing some other shapes too. I love them.
They're so simple, but brilliant.
And I think it'll be fun, like, you know, for people to make their own little shapes and stuff. And I posted a picture of this kind of, this sort of, like, configuration of, like, kind of looping them together. And I definitely, like, had some inspiration, like, going into this. I was thinking about, like, macrame and weaving and like textile stuff. But I posted this on Twitter and someone saw it and they were like, that looks so much like lobster cage or like lobster net links or something for like fishing for lobsters. And I was like, really? Like I never would have made that connection. And then they posted a picture of the links that they find like washed up from the ocean. And they literally look exactly like my next version that I was going to make of this. And I was like, that is so cool. Like it wasn't an inspiration for me. I didn't know about that. But now that this person has like made that connection to me, I like want to go down the rabbit hole of learning about lobster nets.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you know?
Yeah.
Mood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is cool. I'm going to take that inspiration and I'm going to absorb it. And, you know, I don't know where it's going to go, but like, I feel like that could never, I don't know, maybe technology will progress to a place like that where machine learning can be that randomly creative. But like like you said, Billy, like
Hopefully
our
not.
heads, our human experiences and our brains, I mean, we're light years away from replicating that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think,
I don't think
back to your point, like, when you're not a specialist and you are, collecting skills and collecting, you're also collecting ideas and the thing that you are a specialist at is synthesis, is combining things.
Yes.
And
yes,
maybe learning something from scratch, because specialists learn
thinking
things,
outside the box.
you know, but we learn new things all the time. And we're really you get good at learning things. And that's definitely a specialist skill in a way.
Yeah.
And being able to find new ways to combine stuff as well, because I think when you have effectively one main tool in your toolbox, like if you're used to using a hammer, everything looks like a nail, isn't it? I realize I'm absolutely bastardizing the saying a bit, but I do think that when you are really good at one thing, you're always going to look for a solution that involves that thing because that's what you're good at. But when you are pretty good or curious about, maybe you're not good at a thing, maybe you're just curious about a thing, but when you have more tools in your toolbox, you're going to find more interesting ways to solve problems because there's more ways to do it. So I think at least this is certainly kind of a thing that I've thought about, is how, if you were a generalist, your skill is not necessarily in the individual skills, but in, your ability to combine them and your ability to use them to create something maybe better than
that no one
person
else
with a single
maybe would have
tool.
thought of, you know, or few people.
Yeah. But I also very much feel you on the rabbit hole of curiosity.
Yes. Yeah.
I know the rabbit hole of curiosity.
There's some things I peek into and I'm like watchmaking this week. I saw watchmaking and I was like, Rose Engine, and I like peeked in there and I'm like, oh, I could fall down that rabbit hole. And I kind of went, I'm just going to close that book for now because I could fall way.
No, I can't.
I still have a whole folder of bookmarked tabs on pneumatic tentacles on my browser. So like, I feel that.
I feel you. Well, we need more time to go down all the rabbit holes.
We do, definitely. So you mentioned you're a designer. What got you into making? Like, have you always made stuff? And what sort of stuff have you made as you've gone along? Yeah,
so I guess I've always been, I certainly didn't know the word maker until 10 years ago. Even that seems long. But I've been a creative person, you know, I've never thought of myself as like, an artist, you know. I kind of grew up looking at other people who were like really good at drawing. I mean, like, and this is part of the problem is like, there's so many like, stereotypes of creative people that if you don't fit into those, sometimes I think you can grow up thinking you're not creative somehow, but I really think everybody's creative. And so, but I wasn't like traditionally like a great graphic artist, you know, or like life drawing person. But I've always been interested in costuming, and I've always been interested in aesthetics in some form, whether it's like wearable, like fashion, or just visual design of objects. Just certain things kind of like spoke to me, and I didn't even know really about design as like something that you could study until I was in college. But I was a dancer growing up. I did a lot of dance classes. I took a lot of music lessons, and I never thought I was going to be a professional at any of the things that were like sort of creative interests for me. So I didn't really call myself anything like a maker, or I didn't even call myself a dancer growing up, even though I took so many dance classes. I just thought, well, this is not going to be my job, so I'm not that thing, you know? And so when I discovered the term maker, this is a very long answer to your question.
No, it's good.
This is a great
what we're here for.
When I discovered the term maker, it was actually when I first went to a maker fair, and I had already majored in graphic design and graduated, and I was working as a graphic designer. So I was working at a small firm. I was working, making like business cards, corporate identities, stuff like that, logos. And then I worked for Gap, and I was working on the in-store team, and I was designing like graphics for like in-store experiences, and I made gift cards and stuff like that. But then I went to a maker fair, and I was like, whoa, this stuff is super cool. It's all so different, and it's all together. Like, welding is like right next to sewing, which is right next to, you know, the steampunk.
I love that.
And, you know, I was just like, I love all of this stuff. I want to do all of this. I don't know how this like fits into me, but like I'm excited. And I kind of got more interested in like making costumes and making fashion, like clothing, like sewing and stuff, than I was interested in the graphic design, like part of my career. So I ended up leaving Gap to kind of pursue doing my own thing, which at the time that I quit, I didn't know what my own thing was, but I kind of took some time to figure it out, and I started a fashion line, and I made my own clothes, and I sold them in little boutiques, and then I moved up to Seattle with my husband, and rather than transfer the whole business, like I was very close to actually producing a line in a small factory in San Francisco. I was like this close to like calling them and saying like, yeah, make the clothes. And then we decided we were going to move up here. And so rather than take that whole business and move it up here, I decided like, well, maybe this is my chance to pivot a little bit and like pursue costuming, which I was kind of more interested in from a design perspective. So then I worked a little bit in costumes here in Seattle. And because I was just kind of following my interests really, I got really interested in figuring out how to put electronics into my costumes. And that's kind of how I found this love for combining technology with the wearable work that I do. And so that was kind of like my discovery of the focus that I have now. But I feel like I'm still on that journey, and I'm still like figuring out where this is going to lead me and where I'm going to combine in the future. So I guess I've not always called myself a maker, but I just didn't know the term, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, definitely. And I totally relate to you saying I didn't identify as a creative even though I made stuff. Like, and I definitely feel that because like my mum was a fine artist, and I was like, I never was really into arty art, like fine art stuff until relatively recently. And yeah, so I didn't really count myself as an artist. I said maybe I like crafting, like I would always kind of sewed or crocheted or whatever, so a crafter maybe. But yeah, I only learned the term maker in the last few years on the internet, really.
Yeah. And actually someone just reached out to me, a friend of mine. She was like, you know, and I know her through dance. And so she's a very creative, expressive person too. And she reached out to me and she was like, my boyfriend, I think he's a maker. But he doesn't know that term and I didn't know that term, but he makes costumes and he cosplays. And I saw your stuff and she's like, I realized like maker, the word maker, like, oh my God, he's a maker, you know? And I was like, this is amazing. Like there's such a power to realizing that there's a thing that exists that you can be, you know. It's like, it's so hard when you think that you're totally alone in what you're doing. And it's so different when you realize like, you're not, you know? I mean, not that it's a stamp that you have to fit into, but just that there's, you know, someone else going through something similar and, you know, you're simpatico with them is just like huge.
Yep. 100%. I totally agree. Even down to like what Faye was saying earlier about how you were kind of that person for her. Like, it's like, yeah, it's so good to have. It just feels good, like you've come home
To
almost.
not
I don't
be
know,
alone.
like
Yeah.
Just to see someone else doing something like what you want to do, even if it's different. And I do think that is kind of one of the magical things about the concept of being a maker, the concept of making, is that it's very broad, but it also has so much overlap. And so the chances are you will find people who are similar to you, but they'll still be different, which is kind of wild. I don't know that that's something that you encounter so much in other parts of reality.
That's my favorite part of it too, is like, whenever you find someone who's doing something similar to you, like, all you have to do is like scratch the surface a little bit to discover they're this totally amazing person that also does these other things you've never heard of. And it's like, it's kind of like, you know, back in the day when I was growing up listening to music, it was all on CDs, and like the way I would find new artists to listen to was reading the booklet in the CD, you know, and it would say like, the artists would like thank other bands, and I'd be like, "Oh, I've never heard of these bands," and then I would look them up and find new music, and like it wasn't all on the internet, so you couldn't like instantly go down like, you know, a list of artists and find people. It was a little bit more like of an active search, but like connecting through people and finding new people that speak to you on some level with what they do, but also introduce you to like a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like gold. It's so exciting.
Yep. 100%.
Admittedly, that's why I loved Pandora Radio back when I had access to it. Just for the discovery of new music. But yeah. I was like, oh,
discovery. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's why we do this podcast, right? Like, I just love scratching that surface off and finding what makes me, and I learn, even people that I know really well, I learn new things about them every time, like they come on and stuff. And yeah, it's so amazing.
Great. Yeah. And I love like when people are trying to actively like share other people and like reveal their inspirations and show like the pathway to where they got to, you know, their idea. And I feel like it's something that I see so much more in the maker community than in some other like creative, adjacent like creative worlds where they kind of are very protective about like how they got to their idea or like who inspired them or whatever. And like in the maker world, it's so beautiful. Like so many people are super open about it, and just like I like, that's one thing I want to not have any secrets. Like, I want to tell everyone, like, I got this idea from here and there, and I stuck it together, and then someone said it looked like a lobster thing, but I'd never heard of that before, but now I know, you know, like, I feel like making that kind of, like, creative journey visible is so helpful. Like, it's so helpful to me when I see it in other people. So I just want to like totally expose all of that.
You know what? You're actually, I had not really put these things together before, but you're totally right about the fact that the way we are as makers in that sharing and that share and share alike, and that I want people to know how I did this so that they might learn something and be inspired. It is actually quite unique. And I guess because I spend so much time, you know, amongst people who do the same, I do forget that the rest of the world isn't quite like that. But you totally reminded me that when I was still developing my picture frame idea, I had several people tell me that I should protect it, that like I shouldn't share it, that I should, you know, not give out the files, or that I definitely needed to patent it before I, you know, put it online and stuff like that. And I remember how deeply uncomfortable all the conversations made me feel, because it was always based around money too. Like it was always based around the idea that you protect your idea so nobody can steal it and therefore steal your money, because obviously they'll steal it and then they'll make money off of it and then you won't make money off of it, and this is all very bad, so you must keep everything very secret and protect it. And I went actually through several conversations, and in the end I was kind of like, I don't want to patent it, I don't want to sell it to a company, I want to sell it, like I would still like to make a living, but like I want to sell the files to people so that they can go and make their own versions, and I want to talk about how I made it, and I don't want to be secretive because it feels not quite in the right spirit, I guess, to me.
Yeah,
but
it's like, it's your choice, it's what you want.
Yeah. No, I like sharing.
Yeah. And I feel like the choice is the important part. Like I totally understand, like there are artists who are, their craft is their livelihood and their art is their livelihood. And like they have made the choice of how they want to structure their career. And that is totally cool. And I support that totally. I have just kind of gone through this journey where I realized that doesn't work for me, because I don't like to make the same thing more than once. So it would just not work for me. Like when I was doing my fashion business and I was selling clothes, I was like, I'm gonna make clothes, you know, and I'm gonna design them. I'm gonna design a whole line. I realized I was actually more excited about like designing the whole system than I was about like designing the individual dresses or whatever and making them. And when it came down to like actually producing them, I absolutely hated getting orders, because by the time I designed it and made one, I didn't want to make it again.
Yeah.
This is why I don't work in fashion. Yeah, because I'm the same. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I either have to commit to this and hire a factory, you know, and get someone else to make it, because I'm not. I mean, I even tried to create a system that would work for me. I was like, maybe I could make 10 of something. And so maybe I'll make it limited edition.
Maybe I won't be sick of it
like,
yet.
Put my brain on it. And I couldn't even, like, making 10 of something. It was just like, it makes me insane. So I kind of like, so I realized like, I'm just not that kind of creator. And actually I'm going through some thought processes right now about like how I'm going to take what I'm doing and turn them into, a livelihood that actually, you know, is sustainable for me.
That's a whole mood.
I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it. And I'm trying to make these decisions actively. Like, do I want to create a product where, you know, the design is protected and I'm not giving that information out and try to sell the product?
And
or
there's presumably a
do I
time
want
and
to
a
do
place.
something else? Yeah. And I think it's like making that
probably
choice.
Be a time and a place.
Yeah, and if the opportunity presented itself and I thought it was the right thing to do, you know, I would. But I'm actually more interested right now in the design aspect of my work, and so I'm kind of pursuing that more And, yeah, it's like something that I've kind of tried several times to like turn my passions into, like business, and, I know I can do it. It's just how, like, I want to do it I want to like put the thought in up front to create it intentionally. And so that's kind of like what I'm working on actually this year, because obviously last year was just like the rug pulled out from everyone. So this year I'm like, I'm going to focus on this and figure out how I can actually create my, how I can actually use my brand, to turn it into a real, get more serious about the business side, basically.
Yeah. So historically, well, I suppose you did the fashion and stuff, but you're talking more about the sort of one-off interesting things that you do now, turning that more into a money side of thing. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, because I think what I've done in the past, pretty much the way that I've been able to make money as a maker, like doing this work, has been mostly through writing articles and writing tutorials and creating like educational content. And so that model, is pretty much what I've been doing up until like last year. So I was writing, articles for Hackspace, and I wrote the book for them, which is the, wearable tech projects book.
You wrote that one. Oh, that's cool.
So it was like,
you didn't know that.
It was like 30 projects. There's some other artists in there too. And I kind of curated it and it was a whole thing that I did. And all of the articles actually came out in different issues of Hackspace. But that was basically like the most like stable, dependable way that I've found to do a project and then make some money off of the project, which is, the publisher of the magazine will pay you to do the article. So I pitch the article and then do the project, document it, do the photography, write it up, send it off, and then get paid. And that is it's actually a great, way, I think, to start making your projects, like pay for themselves, really. But the issue that I started to fall into is that as a designer, I was having these other ideas that I wanted to pursue, like creative ideas that don't fit really well into tutorials, because when I'm creating the tutorial, I'm designing the project. I mean, I can never turn my own design brain off. So I'm designing a project that works well in a tutorial format, and especially for print, like it's 6 pages, it's a limited number of photos. And if it's going to be, a wearable project that includes code, I mean, you're going to spend an entire page on just explaining your code. So it can't be that complex. And I wanted them to be really good, useful tutorials. So I designed the projects to fit that format. And
which is
I
smart.
actually love that as a design challenge, but it just meant that I couldn't go to the weird place, like I couldn't go further because I can't explain this dress in 6 pages,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like at a place where I want to focus more on projects that the point of the project is the project instead of the tutorial. But, I'm always going to make my processes open and available and document them in some way. But I'm more interested in creating the work now first. So making some projects that are for me. And then I'm also working with some other people, like creative partners, where my work can fit into their vision, like filmmakers or music videos and stuff like that. Like that's really where I want to go now.
Very fun. That'd be awesome. Yeah, there's so much freedom, I think, in music videos to do really interesting, cool stuff like that.
Because they're wild. Or
yeah.
I guess they aren't always wild, but they have the
That's what I want. I want to do the wild ones.
The wild ones.
That's
Definitely.
That's certainly where the fun's going to be. Ooh, I totally want to ask. I want to ask a potentially. I feel like it's a good question, and I feel like a lot of people watching this would probably be interested in the answer. Though I'm also aware. I guess it's slightly personal. Not knowing anything about kind of like this sort of like writing and submitting of articles, tutorials, sort of thing. Did you find that sort of work not financially viable, but like a good effort to income ratio? Does that make sense? Like the amount of work versus what you got paid to do it. Do you feel like that was good and you felt good about that? So I do feel like a lot of times we're underpaid.
Yes, I would say it depends. It depends on who you're writing for.
Sure.
And I definitely, I'll also say publications it's a wide range of what they pay. Some,
gonna depend on what
some
they make,
companies
probably.
will pay like a couple of $100s for like an online tutorial. Some publications will pay, $1,000 for a much longer article that might be in print that they might be able to recycle in other publications that they use. And
they can make more money off of it.
It's pretty wide ranging. And I think like it's definitely on the creator, the writer, to make that fee work for them in terms of how much effort you're going to spend on the project, how much time you're going to spend writing it up. I
know exactly what you
mean. There's a small
yeah.
amount of negotiation you can do. I mean, in my experience, there's some negotiation can happen, but there's a budget that publication is working under.
Yes.
And, for me, I look at it like, I think to answer your question with one word, I guess I would say no. I don't think, off the surface, it's 100% financially viable to just do that. I think you're going to have to supplement with other forms of income, especially if you factor in the
that's why I realized
cost
financially
of your
viable is
project.
probably the wrong word.
But if you're talking about like, could you make a project pay for itself by selling a tutorial about it? Depending on the cost of the project, I think it's possible. And I think like you could get creative about what you're pitching. I mean, maybe if you're using materials that are not super expensive and your project is not so complex that it takes you 6 months to write the article, if you're only spending a week on the article, maybe that works for you in terms of what it comes down to how much value, like what the monetary value is on your time. And I guess, I'm sorry, I'm totally going on about this, but going back to the whole like having experiences coming from different places all like fit into what I'm doing now. When I was working on my fashion business, I also had a jewelry business for a little while. I've been all over the place. But when you work with a retailer and you're creating a product that you're going to sell through a retailer, there's a formula that you use to calculate what your wholesale price is versus your retail price. And it's like this formula that you have to kind of work out that takes into account the materials you're putting into it, how much time you're spending on it versus the market value of the item, what you think you can get. Also that the retailer wants to get a certain cut out of it. And basically this formula works out to your product has to be dirt cheap for you to make if you want to actually make any money off of it and sell it at a price that people can afford. It's like this crazy reality. But the only way it works is if you start at the beginning and you factor in everything that it's going to cost you. And I would recommend taking the same approach to creating tutorials that you want to sell to publications. What is it going to cost for you to make the project? And how much time are you going to spend documenting it? And what is that worth to you? Then add on, what it's going to make the publication, and if they're giving you a budget, you have to subtract that stuff out and say like, this is what is going to compensate me for my time. And then this is what's going to, be the material cost. And don't lose those things, because those are the things, that's how you screw yourself over. So you're like, I forgot to include shipping. Now the shipping's on me. You know what I mean? So.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense, I think. Yeah, it's very sensible, a sensible way to think about it. I know I've done like tiny little bits of that kind of work, and I think, for me, it helped when I wasn't doing a whole project. It was just like, here's this technique, like here's just this little bit of it, because that's like because my projects do get pretty like wild sometimes. So here's just how to do like printing on fabric, or weird patterns on your first layer of your 3D print, or like just a little bit of it, which I think kind of works in our community, because we're always gathering stuff to do our own thing with. Like, I don't know, I've never really made someone else's project that they designed in full. I've never just copied like a whole thing, but I've like copied little bits from many other things. So I think it's still a very viable product, I personally think, because so I think that's how I got around that a little.
Totally agree. And I think it's brilliant. And I've done that as well. Like, if you can't sell the whole project, write up a section of it. It's such a good tip. And I think it's more useful as a person who's reading tutorials. Like you said, I usually will start from someone else's tutorial just because it's similar to something I want to make, and I want to learn the technique.
Yeah, not necessarily the same.
But I've very few times actually made the actual thing that they're explaining how to do. And I try to write my tutorials in the same way. Like, here's the demonstration of how it works in a thing, but let me isolate out what I'm actually trying to teach you so you can take this snippet. It's an ingredient and you can cook up whatever you want with it. And I think the key is, and this is why I think like photography and writing are such huge skills to have as a maker, because the photograph of the piece is so important in selling that tutorial, and being able to present it through your writing in a way that you could use that exact tactic, really, like, look at the project, isolate out the thing that is going to be the tutorial sellable snippet, and then build your whole tutorial on that. It's actually a writing skill, and it's a documentation skill. And like, the more you do it, I mean, give this advice to people too that ask me like, how they can turn their projects into, a career, or like be more of a visible maker. And I'm like, document everything and get really comfortable documenting and put it out there. Make it accessible to people. Like, make it instructable for every single project you do. And honestly, like, the people that I know who highlight projects in shows and in their magazines, they're looking at Instructables, they're looking at Hackaday, they're looking at places where people document their projects and upload their projects. And if you're not documenting your work and putting it there, it won't be found. So if you want to be visible, it's like, put it out there. And then my new tip is make some kind of video, any kind of video. It doesn't have to be a super produced YouTube video. It can be iPhone video of the project working. But if you have some kind of video that you can submit to a place that is aggregating projects, they can't show it if it's a still photo, If it's a video, then they can grab it, they can integrate it into their show. This is something that comes up for every now and then. I do a guest host an episode of Maker Update for DigiKey and Maker Project Lab, and it's so fun. Like, I get to choose projects, and I try to throw so much. I'm always like showing my episodes are really long because I want to show so many different kinds of making.
That's the great on. Yeah.
I mean, if you can't tell, it's hard to show.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so much great stuff to show, and I want it to all be next to each other. Like, I want to create that maker fair experience of like, this is just as valid as that is just as valid as that. Like, I want it to all be together. But I often we'll find something amazing that just doesn't have enough documentation, and we can't, there's nothing to put in the video, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to tell everyone I know to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many people who talk about, oh, your stuff gets so recognized and stuff, and when I call their stuff really awesome, they're like, oh, it's not so awesome because like people don't look at it, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't share it. Like sharing it with me in DM is like yeah, of course no one sees it. Like I love you,
but
share
also
it.
the documentation.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary too. Like it can be scary to put your stuff out there. I would definitely, every time I post something, I'm like, oh, what's gonna?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think Liz Clark, my friend Liz Clark, she's like, yeah, upload and run. I'm like, yeah.
That's it. But I think also too, like once you get into the habit of it, you realize that like what you like your feelings toward a project and what everyone else's feelings toward that project are probably pretty different. Like there's often like when I would spend an afternoon on something and just throw it on the internet and boom, front page, like everywhere. It's all over the place. And then other times you pour weeks and weeks into something and then it just like, oh yeah, that was nice. Like it just doesn't really get, and it's so you can never judge. I feel like you can never judge, and you may as well just throw it out there because the internet's going to do whatever it does with it.
It's true. I think like my number one, like most engaged, most popular tweet that lived the longest was literally like a 10-second clip of me like plugging in a USB. I had like a USB cable that you can plug in any way, and so I like plugged it in. I just kept like unplugging it and replugging and flipping it around, and it blew people's minds. And it's like still going around, and I'm like, really? I made that.
Like you're like, damn it.
And
yeah,
so
about that for a little bit because
they want to see the USB. I'm like,
I care about that. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I've been meaning to, but the video keeps going in and out a little, but it's good right now. So let's talk about projects for a bit. Show us some of the things you've done. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So this is it is 90% done. I'm like stuck on that 90% line. It's so, I blame the pandemic, but this is basically a 3D printed, the whole dress is 3D printed on fabric. It's currently in 2 pieces, and I just have to meld them together. And I've got this underlining that's fabric, so it's all going to be kind of backed and
totally going to ask about that too.
Fabric. Yeah.
I was thinking about that.
But basically,
I've been watching you make that for a while, and I know that the fabric you did it on is quite see-through.
It is.
A little nudie-rooty.
It's it's this mesh.
Yeah,
and
it's a bit see-through.
This is what goes wrong sometimes when you 3D print on fabric.
It tore, didn't it?
But when they come out right, it's like,
that's so beautiful. It's like a snake. That's
gorgeous.
It
is exactly like a snake.
Someone also said that it looks like tire tread, which I'm not sure they meant that as a compliment, but I was like, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I think it's just a different way of thinking. Like some people look at a thing and they see snake skin. Some people look at it and they see a tire tread, and they're both good because that is the thing they thought of,
Snakes are definitely more familiar to me here in Australia.
I printed it on this orange, and it accidentally looks exactly like salmon.
Like a salmon, yeah. I'm hungry now. I want some sushi.
Isn't that so funny? I was like, I need to 3D print like a little lime slice and like, or lemon and like parsley.
A little bit of nori around the thing. Yeah.
It's so weird how it looked exactly like that. Like because the filament itself is kind of translucent. So on the roll, it looked really red. But when it came out, I was like, that is 100% fish.
Salmon.
It's even got the like iridescence that salmon almost has, like it's got that sort of transparency thing going on. It's perfect.
It's
so
basically
weird.
just a fillet. It's just a salmon fillet, a nice one too, like a fillet.
There's certain people out there who would wear that though, like Lady Gaga or Bjork. I could definitely see them wearing a bit of salmon-inspired clothing. They would rock that.
It's true. I need to embrace
I probably would
salmon.
as well.
Embrace it, yeah.
But basically, the whole
gorgeous.
thing is printed on, in little pieces like this, and I have to assemble them together. And I'm using my 3D pen to do that. So I'm doing a new video where I'm kind of showing that assembly process because that was kind of my breakthrough on this dress, because I tried different ways to connect the pieces. Like I tried sewing them and all the seams. I could not make it as invisible as I wanted it to be. But I found that I can just basically fuse them together by overlaying the fabric on the next piece and then just using my 3D pen to like weld it on. And it maintains the pattern and it's totally invisible and the whole thing will look like it's all just a 3D printed like one piece. So
that is so cool.
That's where I'm going with that. I did a whole bunch of like
ooh,
experiments with different like
I like
heights, you know?
Yeah.
That could definitely be a bracelet. Like
yeah. I was gonna do like a collar. I did
that too.
I did this like kind of wing thing.
Oh.
You know, and I'm just experimenting with these different it's almost like creating this really bizarre grain in the fabric where it is very, very flexible in one direction, but much less so in the other direction. And you get these really prescribed fold lines, essentially. So that's pretty
which
fun.
Is fascinating. I think
like
that even probably has like
four-way stretch.
Functional. Yeah. I think that even that repeatable bend probably even has like functional consequences, you know? Like I was thinking about solar shields on like that they're talking about in space where they like fold out in a very specific format and then origami back up. Like that's so cool. That is what that's doing, really. It's that controllable fold, that repeatable fold, which is
totally. And you can even get some structure in it. So like this one I printed with a lot of, it's very thick, but it has almost no infill, so it's very, very light. But see, it's almost like a quarter inch. It's pretty thick. And in this direction, it folds on the lines very, very deeply folds. But on the other side, it almost like has like enough structure to like stand out.
Yeah, because the pieces are butting against each other.
Yeah. So you can play with creating, I mean, I feel like maybe soft robotics could be a cool application for something like this. So like I basically like burned myself out on like trying all these different experiments. You know, this is a cool one just aesthetically. I did a little like filament change.
Oh, nice.
And so I basically want to take every single one of these experiments and like turn them each into a project. Time, man. And also,
incredible.
I'm printing on a mirror, so the back is like glass. You know, it's super shiny, and so I want to do a piece that's all the back that just looks like you know, sequins essentially.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, and especially silk filaments on the glass is just like so shiny. I'm like, I've done things where I'm just like, it is the sequin. It becomes the sequin because it's so shiny. It's
so shiny. It's beautiful, and especially if you do something really, really thin. Like this is 2 layers, so it's like super paper thin, and it's
also almost
light,
translucent,
and it's super translucent. And then again, you have like a lot of flex along this axis,
like
I guess
it's
you could
floppy.
say. But it you know, it's a straight line, so it would stick out. So I'm doing like I'm gonna do some like gathering things, you know. Like I've got ideas, man. I just need
I swear,
time.
if I lived closer, I would very much be coming around to help model this stuff for you, because it just is so cool and it is so my vibe. Cool. I just love the aesthetic so much, and I love wearing absurd things. So like I would be in your studio being like, hey, so let's work on this thing, and you can basically just 3D pen it to my skin. It's fine.
Well, fine. You know, the pandemic will be over one day, and I'm excited. You know.
Yes,
I hear rumors that one day, I'll be able to leave the island
Well, I feel like I'm on that island right now because we've been so lucky down here. Like, I just wish I could move everyone here where we can all run and hug random people. We're very lucky here. I wish
I'm on the rainy
wish you all
island.
could come down.
I'm glad to see, people doing well, and we're coming out of it. It's taking some time, but I feel like we're so close to the end. Like,
it will happen.
Let's not screw it up now.
Yeah.
Oh, don't speak too soon. But yes, your dress is so friggin' cool, and like
thank you.
How you have been doing this problem solving and showing the problem solving as you're doing it, as opposed to saving it all for the end and like just showing it all at once. Because admittedly, I always feel a bit compelled to do that. Like that's a thing that I think I need to get better at. Is I always feel like I need to just compile everything and then clean it up and make it presentable and then present it like as a finished hello, here you go, this is the thing. And it is genuinely from the other perspective, it is so much better to see it in pieces, because goddamn, I'd have lost my mind by now if I had to wait until the end to see this dress, because like every time you teased a little thing or shown a thing that you've done, like, because I remember when you posted the using the pen to put the pieces together, and I was like, oh, that's how it's done. And then like I felt so much better.
And I think like for me, like as the person working on it and posting it, like sometimes I don't know how many people are actually like following along on my project, and I don't know that it actually matters to anyone other than me. But in those moments where I'm like, oh, why am I doing this, or what have I done? I don't even know. You get lost. But it's like,
what am I doing with my life moment?
Exactly. But then, someone is like, then, someone might reach out to me and be like, oh, that dress, like, can't wait to see that. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I needed to feel a little bit of like that outside validation, not that we should live for that outside validation, but sometimes it's just like you need a little pep talk, a little encouragement. And like, it's just so nice to be cheered on, especially for a long haul like this, which arguably I could have finished this like a while ago, but 2020 just totally
okay.
It's this. I've got another thing that's like 90% done. It's, I can't wait to actually finish them now.
We all need to be encouraging each other more to be okay with taking longer to finish stuff, because it's really easy to be really hard on ourselves about that. And I think we've all probably done it, to be like, oh no, I should have been done with this by now, and I'm not. So, bad. But like, it's obviously totally okay and very, very understandable. So we need to just tell each other, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It takes as long as it takes. It will be done.
Yeah, it does. And that, again, that can be hard when it's your project and feeling like, oh, but I just, I want it to be done, or it should be done.
And
again, I am obviously talking to myself here, so.
Yeah. I mean, I also like recently I've been going back to other projects that I've done in the past, and like, I mentioned I kind of want to do work where the point is the project versus the tutorial. So I've kind of gone back and looked at projects that I made for tutorials or that became tutorials, and I'm sort of recontextualizing them by rephotographing them, or like my light up jacket, which
I was just gonna say,
I that was like a really cool experiment for me, to take something that I've already done and sort of make a new narrative for it, make a new point for it, and that's this jacket.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Did these, and I don't know if my lights are too bright. I'm gonna turn this on. There we go. Just turn off my lights.
We'll pop a link to your amazing cyberpunk-esque video in the description too, because it's an amazing video, even just from a video perspective, amazing video on this jacket. So we'll pop a link
thank you.
I'm still nerding about that video.
I really wanted to make a video that was like a narrative, like for this piece, because I feel like, I was saying I want
Video
to
is
do more
expression
work.
too.
Yeah, it
Video
is.
Creative expression too.
It is. And like I wanted to I really wanted to make like more artsy. I really want to make more artsy videos. And so I'm kind of like, I was like, well, maybe if I make it like the intro really artsy, and then I still deliver the tutorial, you know, maybe it'll make sense. And so I really had fun like making that sort of synth wave thing, and I tried to give it a point, you know, like, oh, maybe it's a person in lockdown. You can't go out and, you know, wear your jacket out. You should just wear it at home. So that's what the video was. Me frolicking around in my jacket at home.
It was wonderful. It's a wonderful
Cyberpunk at home.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for watching.
And the jacket is amazing too. Like, show it off just a little more,
yes.
I think, because it's, we kind of glossed over it because we're geeking out about the video, but the jacket is amazing. Sorry.
No, it's, so this is a purchase jacket that I just had in my closet, and, I added these panels, and these are 3D printed, diffuser panels. So this is just clear PLA. And I sewed these onto the jacket, and underneath them I have embedded these LEDs, and they are sewn under the lining of the jacket. So they're
which is such a nice touch,
here.
by the way. Like, you could have easily not done that, and nobody would have necessarily known had you not shown them. But the fact that you just added that little extra touch is just so good.
Oh,
I appreciate it anyway.
And it actually is like way more functional. Like this, out of all of my wearable tech projects, this is the one that I actually get the most like wear out of. I wore this to Super Conference. I wear this to like, I wear this all the time actually. It's like,
awesome.
you know, because even if you just turn it off, it's just a regular, you know, jacket that has kind of a cool pattern on it.
It still looks cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like it kind of transitions really well from like regular clothes into like something a little more funky. And
what's regular clothes?
What is regular clothes?
What are those? Yeah, I'm not sure I know it.
The person in the rainbow sweater, you know, like what's regular clothes?
I've started going a bit Victorian, but like, getting a bit of Victorian vibes back because I'm like, it doesn't matter what is clothes anymore. No one knows. It's fine.
I'm a fan of like dressing up for the grocery store. Like, I don't think you need a special occasion. Any occasion can be special.
Want to wear red lipstick to the grocery store? Wear red lipstick to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I've got a controller in the pocket, and that lets me change to different like modes. So now it's pink, now it's yellow.
And you programmed all of these modes.
Yeah, I mean, this is the programming on this is very simple, and it's all in my tutorial.
It's complicated to me.
It's, but I kept it really simple specifically for the tutorial, so it's all, like, it's really doable, this one. And all of these modes actually exist in MakeCode, so if you use MakeCode to program your electronics, you have access to these. You don't have to write these animations from scratch. You can.
What's MakeCode?
Oh, MakeCode is fantastic. It's actually by Microsoft, and it's a visual programming language, so you don't have to learn, you know, Python or CircuitPython or Arduino. You don't have to learn how to type the code. It's modules. So and it's online. It's a web.
Billy's like, I'm writing this down.
Yeah, check it out.
Literally did. This is my pen.
Yeah, and so if you go online to MakeCode.org, I'm not sure what it is, but
we'll find it.
They have it, and it works for the Adafruit Circuit Playground Express, which is the board that I'm using in this, which is it's like my favorite board for beginners to use. It's got a lot of functionality built into it, and it's so easy to use with MakeCode. It also MakeCode works for Microbit, which is actually from
that's the one Hannah really likes. Hannah really likes Microbits Faye.
That one's really great too. That has a lot of functionality built into it as well. And so you can use either of those boards. You can jump onto MakeCode and you just use blocks. It's block-based programming. So if you want to light the LEDs up, you drag the LED block on and you say, you know, when the button gets pressed, turn it to this color. And it's very intuitive. And it's super powerful. You can actually do really complex things in there. And you can jump so right into the project design. Yeah. I really think it's a game changer, and I love to use it in tutorial projects because I think it's so teachable, and your chance for success on your first try is very high. So it'll give you that feeling of satisfaction and power. It's a lot. Coding is a lot.
Coding's a lot.
Yeah.
And you have to get it 100% perfect. It's not like learning any other written or spoken language where if you get it 70% of the way there, they'll work it out. You can communicate. It has to be 100% totally perfect, which just is hard. It's hard.
True. It's mais ou menos, you know? Like, every other language is fine, you know? Like, but no, you're right.
Not in coding. Coding is, and it's like so much effort if you were new to coding, and I'm new to coding, you know, it's not my natural habitat, but so I know how frustrating it is when you're like digging through it just to look up terms. The terms are explained in more terms that you don't understand, and it's like level after level of Googling things. And
oh my God, yes, that.
And 5 hours later, I'm more confused than when I started.
You also don't know.
Right, right. Yeah. And then, like, even well-intentioned people who are very knowledgeable who are trying to explain things to me, I'm like, I don't understand this word, you know?
Yeah.
So,
This
word,
it means nothing to me.
I know it's a lot. And that's why I think tools like MakeCode are so valuable. I think, like, oftentimes those kinds of tools are marketed towards kids, like teaching kids how to code. And
which is great.
I have straight up, my favorite book on Python is a book that was written for kids, but I actually can understand it. And I'm like, this is so valuable for me because, and beyond being written for kids, it's written for beginners, you know, and I am a beginner. So I need to know, I need that foundational
They're not making any assumptions.
Information. Yeah, exactly.
Python is the only bit of coding that I kind of know because I had to take a subject on it before I gave up on university. But I would be interested in finding out what that book is, if you know it off the top of your head, because that would be handy.
I'm going to grab it. It's right behind me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, because I did it for like 5 seconds. But, cool. Beautiful.
There you go. I love it too. The cover's great.
Oh, yeah, so great.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's called Coding Projects in Python, and it's, I don't know.
It's actually quite sizable.
Author on it.
Maybe it's a group.
But it explains, it just has really useful explanations. So, for example, you know, they are going to walk you through word by word, essentially, your code. And they, I think, like, each little section, they're not glossing over anything. Like, if you don't know what a variable is, you'll learn it here. You know, it's not assuming that you know anything or that you're bringing anything to this. And that's, like, you can gloss over anything you already know, but if you don't know it, like, it's here. The foundation is here. So
that sounds awesome. That's what I need. That's what I need.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
That is super valuable.
Yeah.
I actually a lot less. You have single-handedly like reduced my fear of delving into electronics like 30 to 40% because a big chunk of it was around coding and just being like I'll get like I'm like okay, I'm definitely freaked out about the soldering and the wires and stuff, but like once I get past that point, then it's gonna be like I'm gonna be feeling good, and then I'm gonna realize I'm gonna have to write code, and I'm gonna be like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, like, to me, I feel like you can do so much with very simple code, with code that you can essentially download and install, and you don't have to really do much to. And my recommendation for anyone who wants to learn coding or get into programmable electronics, is go to Adafruit. They don't sponsor me. They're not paying me to say this. Like, they just have such a great foundational architecture. You can get their products, and there are so many tutorials just ready to go on their website that tell you everything you need to make your first projects. And that's not to say that it's not going to be challenging, but when you hit snags, they have a really, really active and helpful Discord server that you can jump on and get actual help. It's like, it's such a game changer. I mean, really, the electronics that I know, I learned from Adafruit. Like, I learned from going through and doing tutorial after tutorial, going back to relearn things, because when you learn that way, you gloss over things, and then you need to read a book like this to catch up. But that's a totally valid way to learn. That's what worked for me. And to your point, Faye, I didn't know I could do electronics until I saw someone else doing them who reminded me of me, and that was Diana Ng on Project Runway. She was on like the first or second season, and she did like electronics in her garments, and I'd never seen that before. I did not know that kind of object existed. So, she really changed my life. Like, I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And my husband was like, you should do that. And I was like, do you think I could? And I found out she wrote a book, so I bought her book. I did her tutorial, just seeing that person do those things. She didn't have to win the show to change my life. Like, she just had to be visible.
But did she?
Yeah.
Win the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
no, she didn't win. No, she didn't win.
Sadly, she didn't win. Oh, okay.
No, she won for me.
Yeah. She won your heart.
But now,
she won my heart.
Have you ever sent her an email? Tell her all of these things.
I have not. I should. I mean, like, that's my, like, oh my gosh, I would, like, totally.
I mean, you're legit now, so you can totally be like, hey, so.
Just tag her on Twitter. Be like, by the way.
You changed my life. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah. I should.
Yeah.
I'm sure she does that for a lot of people, because, like, that's a huge exposure for such a niche, focus in your work. And, like, yeah, I
it
would
sounds
not
like
be
she was doing it
surprised
for
that
most
she
people
changed
were.
a lot of people's lives.
Oh, this is so wonderful. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm enjoying this so much.
Me too.
I did want to. Oh, thank you. Gosh, thank you. I did want to ask though, like, is there anything in particular that you want to talk about? I wanted to, like, give you a moment to share anything or talk about anything that you think is important and interesting.
This is your chance to boost a thing that you think needs boosting or deserves boosting, or just because you feel like it. That's
I guess, like, what I want to do more is, I want to do more of the big deal projects like this. And, I guess I'll just talk about, like, what I'm kind of thinking of doing next, which is, I want to focus more on my YouTube channel. So I'd love if people would hop over there and check out the last video I did, because really
we'll pop links
so hard on that. And I want to know, like, if people like it and if they're into that kind of format, I definitely want to do more of those kinds of, I feel like the video is really, like, my opportunity to, like, present it the way I want it to be viewed. So I'm working on another one for this. And then I think I'm going to do some live streaming. And I'm kind of throwing around some ideas for format, because I want to make something kind of unique. And I have some ideas about, like, making it an experience versus the kinds of live streams that I watch are very much like a presentation, like, hanging out, like the camera's on the other side of the table, and you're watching the person work. And I kind of want to experiment with, like, making it feel more integrated, So it might be just subtle things that I'm going to do, like try some non-traditional camera angles and try some non-traditional format things. But
I think that sounds like an amazing idea.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
certainly
very
a thing
interested.
that could stand to be improved upon. Yeah. I'll be honest, and there is a small bit of shame in saying this as somebody who also has started doing streams. I don't watch many. Very, very few.
Yeah.
Very few.
Same.
Yeah.
And it is because the traditional way that it's done doesn't appeal to me. So I think that there is definitely room for improvement. Please feel free to improve on it.
I've started to watch more as inspiration. So the way my whole workflow, like anytime I do anything, my first step is research. And so I've been looking at Twitch a little bit, like makers on Twitch, and I'm so inspired by makers on Twitch, makers on YouTube, like yourself, Faye. Like I think I like the live streams that I'm watching, and I like that people are getting really creative about like the information that they're giving out during the live stream, like going along with you building your 3D printer, or like I saw someone on Twitch making like stamps, and like
what?
Yeah, he's making stamps, and it's actually so fun, to see the
I'm
process.
into that.
Yeah. Of something that I have not really felt like I wanted to do, but watching this person like nerd out on their stamp was like so amazing.
I'm very pure.
And I like when people in their live streams are playing with the format. Like this person was this amazing experience for me. Like you get this delivery of the experience that you couldn't even get if you were there in person, because you're hovering above the table in this overhead camera view, and then he's green screened out, and like he's in the corner and as a tiny person like working, so you can see him working at the same time as you can see him working from above. And every now and then he'll like hit this button that changes his background, and he's like in some other place, and doing some visual gag with his green screen. And like, there's something that I found so inspiring about that kind of like video, like expressive live video making. I don't know. Now I've really gone down a rabbit hole, but like, I was inspired, and I'm like, I want to figure out how to do something that's as unique, like, what is it? Yeah.
That's it. That you've kind of, having not seen it, just going off of your description, it sounds as though like, yeah, he's captured something that has taken a thing from being just a format to being a form of expression.
Yes.
And being part of the artistic medium, like in the same way that video can be an artistic medium, and like you're exploring ways to not just express yourself creatively with your projects, but also through the presentation of the projects.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting late here. My words are getting mixed up.
Pumpkin time, Sophie.
which of course I totally get this, because I feel exactly the same. Like for me, it is creating the videos and making the videos fun and weird and a form of creativity in and of itself is also very important to me. So I get that.
And
but
you
streaming's
do it
obviously
so well,
different.
Faye. You do it so well. I love your videos. I can tell you've thought through the delivery of the story, and your camera angles are chosen like to reflect that part in the story.
It's fun.
And it's
so much more
fun to watch. It's great. Like that, and that's the kind of thing I feel really inspired by, that I want to like incorporate. And I kind of feel like it's a theme. Like I see people more and more in the maker world, like making their videos, finding ways to be more expressive about like their video formats, and like that's super exciting to me. I haven't actually wanted to do YouTube videos as much as I have recently, seeing like more and more really creative, funky, like, takes on it, takes on the format.
The truth is, I did not think that I would enjoy it as much as I have. And I didn't start enjoying it until I started getting weird with it. Because there is very much a sort of, especially if you have a really tight schedule to stick to, it makes sense to have a format. It makes sense to have a setup and to do things a certain way so that you can churn them out. And that's never appealed to me. That doesn't appeal to me. I'll never be able to do that. I'm sorry, YouTube. I'm never going to be able to do that. But like as soon as I stopped thinking of it that way and started thinking of it more as, this can be a form of creative expression as well. And how can I do this differently? Like what, and trust me, it's not easy in this room. I don't have a lot of space. So like I have to get a little creative sometimes. And you don't even want to know how I got that one shot where I was actually looking through the printer. I nearly had to break a hole in my wall. Like it was, I very nearly cried because I could not get the tripod to stand up in the right angle in this tiny, tiny space. And it took probably an hour and a half to set up a shot that took 3 seconds.
Oh
but I did it.
I totally
but it was
feel
worth it.
Yeah, I totally feel you because in my synth wavy like opening to my jacket video, I basically like gutted a room of my house and like turned it into a set for that I could shoot that whole opening sequence in. And then like I had this idea that I really wanted the cassette. I really wanted that angle of like me putting the cassette in, closing the thing, and then pressing the button.
You had the vision.
I had the vision and I shot it over and over again. Like I had to get my husband to pull focus for me because I wanted it to like focus on the cassette and then refocus putting it in. And then
that's tough.
The audio was terrible, but I needed to have like the click. I wanted to have the sound. So I went back and I re-recorded just the sound and like Foleyed it in. Like,
amazing.
But honestly, it was so fun. Like I felt like a filmmaker. Like I felt like a director, like making these choices.
It changes everything.
It changes everything. Like and to me, that's a reflection of design. And like, I know a lot of people don't call themselves designers that are designers. And, design isn't just the aesthetic. It's having that idea and then like making the choices to realize the idea. That's design. And like you going through whatever it took to get that shot, Faye, like that's the same thing. And I love and respect that so, so much.
Admittedly, I also have to get better at letting go of visions when they're not time efficient, because I was gonna say, it goes the other way too, where I'm just kind of like, no, I have this vision and I need to see it through. And like 2 hours later, I'm still trying. And like life probably would have been a bit easier if I just went, actually, I can just do this other shot and it'll be fine and no one's going to know the difference, and it'll be done. And I will have not cried my makeup off at that point in frustration. So it's kind of like,
there's a balance.
There's a balance.
Yeah,
for sure.
We're all working on balance.
Yeah, it can be, I again, there's a weird sort of like I feel like I'm like revealing my dirty laundry almost, but like I didn't think I'd enjoy it making YouTube videos. I thought that it was going to be work, like just pure work, that kind of like that sort of thing that you just kind of you force yourself to do because you know it's the right thing to do and you just get through it. And it's ended up being so much more enjoyable. And I do think that there is basically, please join me on the side of overproduced video. so that it's not just me.
I'm in that club, and I can't make them regularly because of that reason. Like I'm just not. I'm really like an all or nothing person, so I can't. I'm either not going to do it or I'm going to devote my entire life to it. So like it's like I can't commit to like an upload schedule because my videos are done when they're done.
Refuse. Yeah, no, they're done when they're done. Exactly. That's and also kind of I think being okay with occasionally just having a little break, like because I actually realized that like I've uploaded something like 3 videos this month and I'm just like, what am I doing? I haven't actually like sat down here to like make a thing in weeks. And I'm like, all right, screw upload schedules, screw whatever upload schedule I set to myself. I'm going to make some stuff like for the next week or two, and everyone else can just chill. Y'all can wait.
Sounds amazing. I love it.
But yes, please, yeah, your Cyberpunk jacket video was stellar. I was definitely screaming. It was just very, very well done, and this is the sort of thing that I think deserves to be embraced. Like, lean into this stuff and lean into your vision, because your vision's good.
Oh, thank you.
I like it.
I
like more bisexual lighting and everything. Like, I'm just cover everything in LEDs. Like, I might have an aesthetic.
I love it. I'm right there with you.
Yes,
I'm
happy.
This has been so lovely. Thank you so much for coming on. This is so good. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Super worth the wait.
It was so great to chat with you. I feel
you too.
I'm like, why didn't we chat like this earlier?
Yeah, like, I feel the same way. We should do it some more. Yeah, let's do it some more. We'll have to find a way to make that happen, because this was just the best. This was the best way to start my Sundays. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll pop all the links to your socials down below, and we'll do the same for Faye. And I've taken a list of all the interesting things we've spoken about, so I'll try and find links to all those as well.
Throw those in too.
Yes, thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you.
Until next time.
Bye. I am loving making this series, and if you are too, please support me on Patreon so I can keep making more. Top supporters will appear in this list of legends. You can meet another maker here, and here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like. If you want to catch up with any of us, all our socials are in the description below. See you later.